In this review, we're looking at another limited edition version of Liebherr's LTM 1090 mobile crane. It is made by WSI Models and it comes in the standard Liebherr packaging. As we've already mentioned, it is a limited edition and it comes in the colours of the Swedish company Jinert. So with the introductions over, let's get on and open the box. And inside we find the usual pair of expanded polystyrene trays. Also included is an information card. There's no information on it, but there is a QR code that you can use to access the information. After that, it's time for a sharp knife and some careful cutting. And as you can see, the parts of the model are all nicely protected. To begin with, we'll put the crane in road-going formation, and the counterweight is modelled as separate slabs. To keep the axle weights down, not all of the counterweight gets loaded at the centre of the carrier. Instead, one slab gets placed at the back. There it just rests in place and there's nothing to stop it sliding about. After that, we can add on the lattice fly jib, and it rests on a holder that's fixed to the side of the boom. To secure it in place, you use a steel pin which has got a loop on the end to make it easier to hold. Included with the model is an optional large cable drum, and there's a space for it, although it doesn't actually clip in. Looking at a photo of the real crane in the Jinert fleet, and it does have this drum, so we'll stick it in place using another old friend, B-Lutac. Looking underneath, and the detailing is visually complex. All the many components of the transmission are replicated, and there are small tanks and other details. The tyres have a nice tread pattern. Let's start at the front, and the hook block looks good in Jinert colours, and for transport it attaches to a loop at the front. The decoration and colour scheme of this particular model is very attractive. There are detailed graphics including a number plate, and the graphics on the door appear to include a Jinert fleet number. There are also textured steps. The attractive colour scheme is enhanced by the use of some tiny graphics. And the wheels also look very smart, and the tyres have branding in the sidewalls. Here you can see in close-up the high level of detailing on this model. Moving to the back, and there's a fixed ladder, and there's a number plate and the lights have plastic lenses. At the back, the Jinert name is visible in transport mode, and the Liebherr name is nicely embossed. Behind the carrier cap there is more high detail, and that includes metal meshwork. There are other pipes and hoses, and yet more tiny graphics. The carrier deck has some nicely textured walking surfaces. Moving to the boom, and the collars on each telescopic section have bolt-head details, but unusually the main bank of pulleys is a solid piece rather than separate sheaths. The main boom hydraulic ram is an all-metal part, and it also benefits from having graphics applied. Each telescopic section has thin metal walls, and again they're beautifully decorated. The lattice fly jib is an all-metal part, and again it looks attractive in this colour scheme. No, the crane's not had an accident, it's just upside down in inspection mode, and each of the axles has independent steering. The range of movement is reasonable, and you can replicate any of the steering modes of the real crane. So let's get it out onto the Cranes Etc. test track, and it rolls well enough in a straight line. Let's check out the steering, and here all axles are set. And with that you can achieve a reasonable turning circle, but perhaps not as much as the real crane. A nice feature on the carrier deck is that there are fold-down ladders, They just have to be rotated out and then they can be lowered. Let's move on and set up the crane for some work. And the outrigger beams on the model are 2-stage metal. The pistons can be screwed down in the usual way, and the pads can be rested on the included plastic spreader plates. There's enough extension in the pistons to be able to get the crane wheels free. With the stability assured, we can now get on and use the crane, and we'll start by unhooking the hook from its transport position. The boom raises very easily because there's no friction in the main boom ram, and that's because you lock it in place using an Allen key on a tiny grub screw. The crane cab is tiltable to help the operator view easily when working at height, and there's also a pull-out catwalk on the side, and both of these features give you different posing possibilities. With the real crane set up, it would normally then transfer the counterweight slab at the end to the stack in the middle, but we'll do that quickly using the hand crane. The model features Liebherr's Vario ballast system, and that allows you to fix the counterweight in one of 2 positions. Here we'll set it at the biggest radius for maximum lift capacity, and the hydraulic rams of the real crane are simulated by screw jacks, and you operate these by using the supplied Allen key. The crane positions itself over the ballast stack so that it can connect it and lift it up, and on the model, once the screw jacks are located into the tabs on the ballast, you can then wind it up so that it's connected to the crane. Once that's done, the crane can rotate, and as you can see, the counterweight is hanging off of the back. Let's move on and take a look at the functionality of the boom, and each of the telescopic sections can be slid out independently. And when you're doing this, it's best to have some weight on the hook to keep the hoist rope taut. Like the real crane, each boom section can be locked at one of 3 locking points. The hoist on the model works very well. There's a supplied key, and you push in on the drum to release the spring-loaded brake, and then you can pretend to be a crane driver and lift or lower your load. If you want some more height, you can fit the optional fly jib, and for the maximum radius you unfold it and insert a locking pin, and that gives you a decent amount of extra jib. The fly jib fits onto the top of the boom in the usual way, and it's a nicely engineered connection which fits well, and you secure it by using 2 long steel pins. After that you need to run the hoist rope, but there's no single line hook included, so you have to use the hook block supplied. The fly jib is also flexible because it can be set at an angle by undoing the ratchet nuts and bolts. This is a very nicely detailed and functional model of the Liebherr LTM 1090 mobile crane. This limited edition version in the colours of Jinert is particularly attractive in its colour scheme. So if you want a really good looking mobile crane model, this one is excellent.